Chances are that at some point in your life, you've had a doctor pull out a rubber mallet and whack you on the knee. Your leg will have kicked forwards in response without you asking it to. What causes this proverbial knee-jerk reaction? Well, to make a long story short, what's going on is that your body thinks that your leg is suddenly moving backwards. And so to correct for this, it sends signals which cause your leg to push forward. It may seem like a strange mistake for your body to confuse getting hit in the knee with your leg moving back, but it makes sense once you understand how the body keeps track of your limbs.
From the medical standpoint, the knee-jerk reaction is one that is relatively simple to understand. There's a cause, your body has a reaction, therefore the effect is what actually is triggered by the brain and not so much just the muscle itself. Therefore, it is vital that for the purpose of the next few moments we understand that the brain is in control. We're not consciously doing anything, instead allowing Mother Nature to take over. Mother Nature is, of course, only doing what she has learned over millions of years of evolution. Things happen, the brain maps out what occurs, and then remembers the next time it happens in order to be better prepared for the event and the possible consequences. Our experiences are the things that educate the brain to be not only prepared, but to start thinking ahead to the next time something happens so that it may, without our knowledge nor even our consent, react in a proper manner in order to shield us from harm. But there is one slight issue with the entire concept. The brain will learn, but more often than not, the brain will learn what the conscious mind is determined to send it. The brain in these cases wants to react properly and with a fair amount of evolutionary reasoning. But we, as the sometimes evolutionary mental midgets we have allowed ourselves to become, fight back what would be a proper response and instead force the brain to do, or in many cases, say something so galactically stupid that as it's being said, the brain deep down knows it's wrong, would scream if it could, as to how wrong this reaction really is, and this is not what we should be doing or saying. And unfortunately, thanks to generations of improper mental babble by that part of the brain that allows emotions to take over in a split second, we've therefore rendered the brain's proper response completely useless. Now conflicted, the brain, bombarded over and over again by these emotional flights of idiocy, eventually surrenders and says, go ahead. You want it, you got it. I've tried my best to give you the right reaction, but you're so damn determined to do it your own way, you go right ahead. You let me know how that works out. The brain at this stage is done with us, and with good reason. You can't argue with the part of the brain that is so determined to do the wrong thing, there is no way to change its course of action, even though that part of the brain that knows better has buried deep somewhere the logical response and demands that is the only response. It is overwhelmed, has to surrender. This, as we know, that any person with 10 working brain cells would know either a little history or a little common sense, that every one of us should have tucked away somewhere in that cranial bread box, right there behind the frozen peas and the if someone around you didn't even know you did something criminal, well, you wouldn't do it because you're supposed to be a lot smarter. Right?
I admire freedom fighters wherever they are, but I still believe that nonviolence is the strongest approach. I think that would apply to the Hungarian situation also. I don't think it's limited to a particular locality. I think it should apply in every situation in the world where individuals seek to break loose from the bondage of colonialism or from some totalitarian regime or from the system which we confront in America.
You truly believe, then, that nonviolence is the sole, the universal answer to injustice and oppression?
Very definitely. Very definitely. I feel that nonviolence, organized, I should say, organized nonviolent resistance is the most powerful weapon that oppressed people can use in breaking loose from the bondage of oppression.
History has given us more common sense than we would ever need. Smart men and women who allow themselves to think instead of just react have already shown us the way to deal with those times we want to lash out, to throw Molotov cocktails, to throw rocks, to wear masks and hoods, and break into stores and businesses because something happened that allowed us to sink into our animal instincts. Would that someone was taking their cue from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Ferguson, Missouri. Maybe the infamous knee-jerk wouldn't rear its bony visage and prove to the world we're still a nation that, at times, and thanks to a hopeful small minority, would rather riot than reason. Reason, no knee-jerk. And that is telling it like it is. Next hour here on MidPoint, do we really need more laws to tackle voter fraud when some studies say it doesn't exist? Around the Dial with Tony Katz from WIBC in Indy, and nothing like a good old-fashioned Texas political sandstorm. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint.